Okay.
All right, we are here. Hello, my name is Jackie Turlton, co-founder of Plant Chicks. I'm here with Marcia Prince, and you guys, we are so excited. We have Eric Adams, the Brooklyn Borough, how come I can never say that? President. He wrote Healthy at Last. It's an incredible book. I'm just going to do a brief introduction, and then we want to open it up to you, Eric, and have you share about your journey. So a little bit about Eric Adams. For the past 3 decades, Eric Adams has served the residents of Brooklyn as borough president, state senator, police officer, and coalition builder. In November of 2017, he was reelected for a second term to represent Brooklyn as borough president. Born in Brownsville and educated in the city's public school system, he is committed to ensuring Brooklyn's bright future by helping each and every Brooklynite reach his or her full potential. And one little thing before we open it up, one of the things that you write here in the book is African Americans are heavier and sicker than any other group in the United States, with nearly half of all Black adults suffering from some form of cardiovascular disease. After Adams woke up with severe vision loss one day in 2016, he learned that he was one of nearly 5 million Black people living with diabetes, and according to his doctor, he would have it for the rest of his life. So Eric, this is how you open the book. Can you share what happened that morning and how you decided to take your health into your own hands and how everything changed?
Yes, and it has been an amazing journey, and that is what the book is really about. Oftentimes, when people look at a public figure, they think of this thing called perfection. And I always say that in our resume or our bios, we should have our failure section, because people need to see how often we make mistakes, how often we do wrong things. And I didn't realize that for my entire life, I was doing things that led to what started out as an ulcer. That was really what sent me to the doctors in the first place. I was feeling discomfort in my stomach. I thought it was colon cancer. And because I just lost a friend at 50 years old to colon cancer, and I was really concerned. And you know, men, you have to drag us to the doctors. You know, we're in a culture where we say, just suck it up. And that morning when I was going to the doctor, I woke up and I couldn't see the alarm clock. I thought it was sleep in my eyes, and I blinked a couple of times. And when it didn't come through, I said, wow, what's going on here? And I was really, really frightened. And as a police officer, I knew what it was back then to be afraid, but that was the first time that I just felt really immobilized, and I was scared and I was concerned. And it was just by luck, I was going to the doctor anyway, and he was the one that sent me for the colonoscopy and to check my stomach. And when I came out of sedation, he says, Eric, you know, you have an ulcer, but your real crisis is your diabetes. And it was a really terrible place for me.
So was that the first time you heard you had diabetes?
Yes, it didn't even dawn on me. I knew it ran in my family, quote unquote. Mom was diabetic for 15 years. She was on insulin for 7. My favorite auntie, died from diabetes at the age of 57, I believe it was. And so I thought it was in our bloodline. And I remember when the doctor said I was diabetic, there was a moment when I said that, Eric, you knew this was coming. Everyone else is diabetic. I talk about in the book how Mom was away at one of her sister's funeral, and she left her diabetes medicine home, but they were all saying, don't worry about it. We have metformin, we have insulin. They all around the table had the same prescriptions, and they didn't realize that it wasn't that they only shared the same prescription. They were sharing the same meal that led to their diabetes. As I say in the book, it's never your DNA, is your dinner. And that dinner is impacting all of us.
100%. And one of the things that you said, you went to a doctor, and your doctor, you asked if there's anything that you can do to help or to like fight your diabetes. And didn't you say your doctor did know about a plant-based diet, but he kind of poo-pooed it and he just was like, yeah, but no one can do that?
You know, no, actually, that was Detective Cliff Hollingsworth. I mentioned him in the book. He was a retired detective. He had a heart attack, and the doctor stated if he would have gone to sleep, he would not have awakening because his heart was going to stop. And it just so happened his friend drove him to the hospital, and the doctor shared with him when he started going to follow up, because I sent him information. I said, Cliff, listen, you are an ex-detective, you know how to do investigations, so I need you to do this investigation on your health. And Cliff went to his doctor and said, I want to do a plant-based diet. And his doctor told him, that's too difficult, too hard to do. And Cliff said, well, what do you eat? And the doctor said, I eat a plant-based diet. And he says, well, why are you telling me not to eat it and you're eating it? He says, because he didn't believe that he would follow it. And that's just so unfortunate. And that's really the narrative in our healthcare system. We are not giving people options. Let the public decide how they want to deal with their health crisis.
Exactly. So you were 56 when this happened. So
Yes.
when I read that, you love hearing that, because not that I love hearing that, but that you were able to change your life, your whole entire, like your blood work, how you view life, losing weight at 56. So it tells me it's never too late. Even if you get diagnosed in 40, 50, 60, you have a chance to turn it around.
Well said. Well said. Let's even go further than that, because Mom watched me. She called me. She says, son, I've been watching, I've been reading. I'm tired of the medicine. She was taking 9 medications at the time, 3 for her diabetes. She was on insulin for 7 years. And Mom decided, I want to try. She was over 80 at the time. 2 months doing a plant-based diet. She called me in tears saying, baby, they took me off of insulin. And it's just amazing. Your body is ready to heal. That is the experience that I learned from all of this. Just as we have a respiratory system, a circulatory system, a digestive system, we have a healing system. And it's not told to us throughout life, but there's a reason you can cut your finger and it heals. You could break your leg, it heals. The body will heal. We just have to get out of its way and allow it to heal.
I love that. Beautifully said. That's perfect. And you also said, like, you talked to Dr. Esselstyn. Can you tell us, like, how that happened, walk us through that led up to that?
And I can remember like yesterday when the doctors, remember I went into the doctor that day. The doctor told me, Eric, you are legally blind. You have to turn in your driver's license. And the doctors, I went in with no medicine. I walked out, I had 3 medicines for my diabetes, had medicine for my nerve damage to my fingers and my toes and my thigh. I couldn't even feel my right thigh. I had medicine for my ulcer, medicine drops from my eyes, medicine for my cholesterol, medicine for my blood pressure. When I walked out of that doctor's office, I felt like a miniature Walgreens or Dwayne Reed, But it was interesting that I went home and I placed all the medicine next to my computer and the pamphlets that said living with diabetes. And I typed in, instead of living with diabetes, I typed in reversing diabetes. And it took me down a different pathway. And Dr. Esselstyn was one of them. I called him. Then I flew to Ohio, and I saw him at the Cleveland Clinic. And I remember him telling me that this was connected to my food. I never heard this before. I said to myself, what's wrong with this nut? Here it is, I'm losing my sight, and he's telling me to stop eating steak. But he was right. 3 weeks after returning to the city, cleaning my cupboards from all of the processed food, oily food, bad food, fried food, sugar-laden food. 3 weeks later, my vision came back, and I never looked back. I only looked forward, and I was able to regain my health, including the reversal of my nerve damage, blood pressure normalized, cholesterol normalized, and the ulcer that sent me to the doctors in the first place just went away. I don't even know when it went away. I just remember waking up and saying, wait a minute, whatever happened to that ulcer that I had?
I love that you fully embraced it. You just like went in there, you're like reversing. So instead of thinking like the negative, like what I'm going to live with, I'm going to change this. What's the positive? How can I be proactive? And so you went and you saw him. Obviously, What was your thoughts? I want to know, like, because I read the book and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, what's he gonna like when he's gonna eat this? Because you said Tracy, you and your girlfriend Tracy, you're like, what are we gonna eat? Grass? Like, what was your first plant-based meal and what did you think about it?
Oh man, you know, and I line it out in the book because that first week I was like, oh my God, I got to eat this for the rest of my life. You know, I was such a terrible cook. You know, my best meal back then was French toast, and I burnt that half the time. And I used to eat a cereal in the morning made out of flax seeds that I didn't grind up the flax seeds, you know. and I remember after the first week sitting down, and your question is so important because I was wallowing in my despair, and I was so busy saying woe is me instead of why not me. And when I sat down that Sunday and said, Eric, you're so busy looking at what you can't eat anymore and feeling sorry for yourself. How about going to explore what you can eat? Why not find out those meals you never had? Because if you're honest with yourself, back then, I was eating the same things over and over again. You know, hamburgers, steak, fried chicken. You know, it was the same things. My life was limited. And here it is, I spent my entire life traveling all over the globe, enjoying new places, but I allowed my diet to be limited. And so I said, I'm going to change my thought. And I'm going to, every week, I'm going to explore a different meal. I'm going to learn different things. And I started building this repertoire of different meals, plant-based meals. I have 50 different meals, fast meals that I can go to, different Chinese cuisine, East Indian, Caribbean, soul food, real soul food that's made out of healthy food. And it's just turned around. My palate changed. I no longer really sought to have sugar and salt. And in fact, when I want something sweet, there were so many different meals that I could have. Nothing is better than a sweet potato mixed with a frozen banana and some cacao powder and some walnuts and my NutriBullets. And it's like, it's the bomb diggity, you know?
How long did it take you for your palate to change? Because you were eating a lot of fast foods before
Yes.
you started this. And those fast foods, they're super high in salt and super high in fat, super high in sugar. So it's very hyper palatable. And then switching over to plant-based foods, it can be tricky.
Yes,
And
yes, it could.
how long did it take you? I mean, this sounds like you just went in, all in.
You know, and we all have entry points. We all have things that motivate us to take us to the next level. And my motivation was my son. I said, I want to walk him down the aisle. I want to see my grandchild. I want to run and play with him. I want to live a life. And it's not about mortality, you know, that's not part of the contract of life. You know, we are all, well, none of us are immortal, you know, but the quality of life was what I said, I'm not going to surrender. And so part of changing my palate was also changing my mental palate, realizing that these foods are addictive. And after 2 weeks, I noticed that mixing, if I want a salty taste, I can mix vinegar and a lemon together. If I wanted a sweet taste, nature gives us fruits. They're the candy of the earth and they're healthy and natural. And so I learned how to mix the flavors to get the taste and wean myself off of the over exciting the palate to sweet tastes. It took me about 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, I was fine. I was ready to go. And I was exploring different and new tastes. Buds, particularly spices. I really started exploring spices, learning one spice a week, the power of spices, what they do for your body. And it just became an amazing exploration for me. And I enjoyed every moment of it.
I love that because you also said, I can give up my processed food, but I can't give up my soul food. So, because culturally, can't say that, culturally, can't say it now. Second time.
You got it.
Yes, we are attached to our foods. that we have. I'm Hispanic, so we do like tortillas made of lard and carnitas, and we love all this Mexican food. And a lot of it's bad. Like you said, it's our DNA, not our dinner. I mean, it's in our dinner, not our DNA, that we have these, you know, nutritional, cultural things that we don't want to give it up. We're like, oh my gosh, I want to get my fried chicken or my macaroni and cheese. So how did you give that up? Like the idea of having some of your past soul foods?
And that's what we pointed out in the book, which was extremely important. Number one, we wanted to show the history of these things that we believe we're culturally connected to, when in fact, much of what we are eating, particularly when you come from South America, Central America, the Caribbean, or the southern part of the country, we are attached to the food that came with the colonizers. We were eating healthy at the time. These are not really the origin of our cultural norms. They were really placed on us. If you look at even Hawaii, I often talk about the Hawaiian diet was a healthy diet. And then the colonizers had them embrace things like Spam. There now, because of their food choices, they have some of the highest levels of diabetes, of heart disease, and other chronic diseases. And so I knew I had to redefine soul food by looking at the cultural norms. If one wants to have a sort of macaroni and cheese, I make a great cheese out of chickpeas and nutritional yeast. I have some great macaroni made out of lentils or black beans. So you still can get the food that you like, but now you're doing it in a healthy way. So after you consume it, you don't feel guilty. You actually feel empowered because you're feeding your body what it needs.
I love that. And you feel better. You feel good. You're not like feeling heavy and thick. It's not causing
yes.
inflammation.
Waking up constipated, bloated, lethargic, and just tired all the time, and just saying, oh, you know, we have a term in the Black community we call Negro itis, meaning after you eat something, you want to go to sleep, you know.
My brother-in-law said that. I got the itis. That is funny. Marcia, tell them about your Amazon Live last week.
Yeah, so I have an Amazon Live show, and I cook from different books. And I took your book and I cooked two things for my, viewers on Amazon Live. And I cooked the Chipotle mac and cheese and then the burger from the Boxer. So I love that you handpicked 50 recipes from different cultures and different people, put it into this book. And I always cook recipes I've never cooked before. So I took those two recipes, the burger and the Chipotle mac and cheese. I thought that would be good to get together. And I cooked it on the live in front of everybody for the first time. And my husband was the taste tester. He absolutely loved it.
Love it.
It was good. So no, thank you for those recipes. I love that you do give the variety of soul food, and that's actually a whole food. So we were really impressed.
Love it, love it. I love that. I normally do a few meals in my office or home live as well. People enjoy to cook, and they love to see how simple it is to make healthy meals. Food should look good. It should be good for you, but darn it, it should taste good. There's a reason we have different sensations on our tongues. And if food didn't taste good, we wouldn't eat and we would not enjoy and have healthy bodies. So I always look for those three combinations so that I can enjoy what I'm eating.
I love that. What are some of your favorite meals?
Oh, there's several of them, particularly in the book. I love pasta and black beans. I liquefy lentils into a nice thick sauce, and I throw in it some great pasta, black bean pasta with, believe it or not, one of my secrets of cooking that a lot of people don't realize is oatmeal. If you like oatmeal, you should sneak your oatmeal into one of your foods any time of the day. It's not just for breakfast. I do a steel cut oatmeal and I put it in, and then I chop up fruit. No matter what I'm cooking, I like to chop up fruit, put that fruit inside, because while you're eating your meal, it's nice to get something sweet every once in a while. And I make a nice bread out of flax seeds, sweet potatoes, bananas, and I mix it all together and put it in a confectionist oven, and it just comes out amazing. I make wraps out of it, and I make a nice dessert that's made out of flaxseed and oatmeal, and I roll it up together and put stuff it with fruits inside, and I bake it. Those are one of my real go-to treat meals that I love.
All right, two things. I'm drooling, and the second is I'm coming to your house to eat. Everything sounds delicious. Seriously.
Jackie likes someone else to cook for her.
And you know what? One of our doctors actually told my husband exactly the same thing that you just said about oatmeal. Think of oatmeal as any grain. You don't have to have it just for breakfast.
Yes.
We make a really good savory oatmeal. A lot of times people think oatmeal for like fruit and more sweet for breakfast. My husband, we literally will have oatmeal with black beans and onions and greens and hot sauce, Tabasco, whatever, like avocado. Throw all kinds of different things in there. Super, super delicious.
It really is. It really is. People, that is not just a breakfast meal.
Oh, it's amazing. So Eric, one of the things that you did, obviously this book is going to be bringing plant-based diets, like letting more people than just New York know about how we can reverse chronic disease or how they can reverse chronic disease. But one of the things that you've done in New York and in the New York schools is you guys introduced Meatless Mondays in the school system.
Yes, I'm so proud of that. It's so important to me. When you think about it, 70% of 12-year-olds have early signs of heart disease. We're fighting childhood obesity, childhood diabetes, childhood asthma. Our babies deserve so much more. We don't want our children to follow this path. It's time really to break the cycle and ensure that we're raising healthy children and families. And so we were able to get the city to stop purchasing processed meat in the city of New York. People thought it was impossible. I'm so excited with this. You talk about a legacy of being able to accomplish something. And then we were able to get our schools to go to Meatless Mondays, to start introducing children to the power of a nutritionally balanced meal. And we're looking to go further. I believe it should be Meatless Mondays through Fridays. And it's important to me. I cannot tell you what to serve on your grill at home or in your kitchen, but taxpayers' dollars should not feed health crises. We should not be putting food in our schools, our correctional facilities, our hospitals, or wherever we're feeding people as government. We need to give them healthy choices and not feed the healthcare crisis. This is not sustainable. 30 million Americans are diabetic, 84 million are pre-diabetic. We're spending 80 cents on a dollar on chronic diseases. There's no way this is sustainable. It's time for us to have a conversation in our medical schools and in our hospitals and all of our institutions of how do we reverse that chronic diseases and how do we start putting people on a pathway of health.
Wow.
Amen. I love that.
I do too. And one of the recipes that you have in your book is by Dominic Thompson. And
Yes.
Dom, he actually found a plant-based diet. It started while he was in prison or in the jail system.
Yes,
So
yes.
it all started there. It's
So
powerful.
true, so true. And I'm glad you pointed that out because the involvement of people who contributed to the book is all the way from someone like him to Paul McCarthy, his recipe, the number of people who contributed recipes, I cannot thank them enough. And it just shows you that it really goes throughout the complete cycle and diversity of individuals on how you can eat healthy in a culturally sensitive way and at the same time enjoy your food.
Amen. I love that. What are some tips, like easily digestible tips for our viewers or audience that you could share? What could you share with them that they can grow or just take right with them?
Take it slow and don't beat yourself up. And this is not the book. This book to me is my way of sitting in your living room, exposing myself to the imperfections of making a journey of going from being unhealthy to healthy. And it's really, how do we find our full personhood? Inside of all of us is a person, a body, a physical and spiritual person that would like to come out. And not only in the book do I talk about what we consume by eating, but also what are we consuming visually? What are we listening to that's not as toxic? So the battle is not only the obesity of our physical presence, but it's the obesity of our spirits. We are being fed fast food in every area, from what we see on social media, what we see on TV, the tensions in our country. I wanted to show people, how do you find that peace within the greatest gift you have, and that's your body? How do you meditate? How do you take walks? How do you find peace in yourself? And it's amazing what happens to you when you start eating right and you start taking care of your physical presence and your mental presence. You become a different person. My complete body change. I am in better shape than I was at a 21-year-old. I've never weighed the weight that I have now. I've never felt so complete and so full as I do now. And I'm just on this amazing journey. And I just cannot think of that ulcer that started me on this pathway, because I was sick, I became well.
That is beautiful. Your book is such an easy read. I love the way you write. We're going to have a link to our Amazon store that has a link to your book. It's available October 13th, correct? Is when
Yes, it is.
Released. But you can pre-order it, so make sure you order it. Super, super easy read, 50 delicious recipes. And you don't just talk about nutrition. You talk about exercise, about breath work, about spirituality, everything you just said. And it's the way you put, like, everything that you put into words here is so beautifully written and so beautifully said. I'm so used to reading books by physicians, and you say this in layman's terms and explain it so differently than what I've heard doctors explain. So I think this is going to resonate really well, not just with the African-American community, but with everyone. It's a beautiful, beautiful read.
Yes, and I thank you for that. And you're right, because let's be honest. So many people are living in their apartments, in their homes, and they surrendered. They gave up on life. They felt as though this is all it is. This is all I have. And I can't afford to go to the gym. I don't even have time to go to the gym. I can't afford to eat right because it's too expensive. I wanted to show them how all this is wrong. You can live in a mansion or you can live in public housing. There are things you can do that is going to turn your entire life around. That person you have inside you, is there. He or she, they're ready to come out. Give them the opportunity.
I love that. So I know you're on your book tour right now. So what's next for you? What's Eric Adams doing next?
My goal is just to continue to spread the information. I'm completing my term as the Borough President, and I am just really leaning into the comfort of the journey. I say this all the time. I think the universe takes care of the destiny. Our job is to enjoy the journey, and I'm enjoying the journey. If I didn't have that ulcer, I would not be talking to two beautiful people right now. I would not be spreading this word. So I'm enjoying this journey, and whatever the universe has for me in the next step of this journey, I'm going to lean into it. I know it's part of the experience of finding out what my true purpose is here. And I think that's the goal of this book, and that's the goal that we all should seek. We should seek to find our true purpose. None of us are in accident. We all have a reason for being here, and I believe I found mine.
You definitely did. Where can our viewers find you at?
They can find me on my social media platform, and I always forget because I don't recall it.
Last dash BK or something like that.
I love that, but they can Google me. I never search for myself, so I never know what it is.
No, I tagged you in it. So it is Instagram. If you're on Instagram, we do have a lot of people on Instagram. It's at Healthy at Last. So yes. It's on Instagram. Yes.
So Instagram at Healthy at Last. So see, I learned something today also. Really is.
No, you've been a pleasure. I have like goosebumps. I'm totally inspired. And I hope that you do speak at more medical conferences, because your keynote at the Lifestyle Medicine Conference was hands down our favorite talk. It left the audience, everyone was like standing and applauding. I know a bunch of physicians who are getting multiple copies of your book to hand out to their patients. So
love it. Love it. When you speak from the heart, it reaches a person's heart. And that's all I want to do.
You accomplished that for sure. We felt it, and it resonated with us when we got this advanced copy. We were like so excited. We were like, oh my gosh, that's the one who spoke at the conference. So no, we thank you. We love paying it forward, and we always tell people, if you read this book, please share it with somebody else in need. Pass it along, pay it forward, because the education needs to be out there, and so does the inspiration. Somebody will need to hear this. So we thank you. Go ahead, Eric.
And that's so important what you said. Send it to someone. They may not read it when they receive it. They may read it when they're in a dark place. They may be sitting in the doctor's office and waiting for that test to come back, and all of a sudden pick up and start flipping through the pages. They may have it on their coffee table and then come inside and all of a sudden trying to think about, what am I going to do with this diagnosis I just received? So it's amazing how things are introduced into our lives when it's time for us to receive them. And so if there's someone you love, send it to them. And trust me, the universe will give it to them when it's time for them to read it. And if it's not now, they may open the book at the time they just came back from the doctor, and they say, wow, this was right on time. And every dollar from this book is going to go to building health ministries throughout the entire country, so people can learn the power of healing.
That's
wow,
beautiful. I didn't know that.
that is beautiful. That's totally worth the read.
That is, yes. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Eric. It was a pleasure meeting you and speaking with you. And you've got a lot to share with this world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we